Wir befinden uns in der Ausstellung Forest Complex von Uta Kögelsberger. Der Wald ist das prägende Element der Landschaft von Tirol und Vorarlberg und ist ein wichtiger wirtschaftlicher Faktor und hat auch eine ganz zentrale Schutzfunktion vor Lawinen, Murenabgängen der Dörfer, die unter den Wäldern liegen.
Bis der Hubschrauber hier ist, schaue ich dann wahrscheinlich auch direkt in die Sonne, oder?
Ja, vielleicht, ja. Ja, möglich. Die wandert jetzt so.
Ja.
Aber ist ganz blöd, weißt du. Auf der anderen Seite drüben ist keine Straßen und nichts. Und da überall nur Wald.
Ja, ja.
Also es gibt eigentlich nur die 2 Punkte da.
Ja. Okay.
Aber irgendwas findet man schon.
Irgendwas finde ich schon. Ja, ja.
Ich kenne kaum Künstlerinnen und Künstler, die sich so intensiv mit der Region auseinandersetzen wie Uta Kögelsberger. Sie war 4 Monate vor Ort, hat sich in Dutzenden intensiven Gesprächen mit den Expertinnen und Experten der Region auseinandergesetzt, hat ungefähr 400 Stunden Material produziert und aus Tausenden von Einzelbildern ist diese Ausstellung entstanden.
Let's go! The key subject matter really is around the sustainability of alpine forests and the challenges that alpine forests are now subjected to with the climate crisis. The warmer temperatures, less snow, etc., are really problematic for the spruce. And the spruce is a very shallow rooter, so its root system is really not suited for these new weather conditions because really it would need to be able to reach deeper to get to the groundwater when there's these sustained times of drought. And with rising temperatures, we have seen an increase of bark beetles, which is really related to previously there being 1 generation of beetles per year. Now there's 3 generations of beetles per year. Plus then the problem is aggravated by things like the excessive storms that we saw last summer.
Ich sollte vielleicht doch in Deckung gehen.
With this exhibition, I'm focusing on these kind of processes of destruction and then the efforts of reconstruction and repair in relationship to these new events, really, that we haven't dealt with before. So, for example, the video work Clearance documents the impact of the storms in the Zillertal, more specifically a gorge that houses the Hasselbach. And this gorge is about 150 meters deep and very, very narrow. So it was a kind of emergency to clear these trees. It was too costly to lift each tree away by helicopter. So each tree was dropped to the bottom of the gorge, creating a 10-15 meter pile of trees, which in turn created a flood risk. So then they had to stretch a 2-ton cable across this gorge by helicopter. And there's this shot where you see the helicopter hovering and barely keeping its position. It was such a risky operation. And at the bottom of the gorge for 2 months, there was one person who was single-handedly tying up each trunk to a rope and getting it lifted out of the gorge. And I mean, it's a massively physically strenuous exercise. It's super precarious and dangerous. I mean, every day he's risking his life because he's climbing up the walls of this gorge, trees slipping and sliding. It was amazing watching him doing this because he has the kind of knowledge of an engineer without the training of an engineer. He can look at a tree trunk and assess, okay, if I move it this way, that will happen, that's going to move, and that will be good, or this will be bad. So he and his clearer process is the subject matter of Clearance. So the work itself becomes a kind of metaphor for this gigantic task of the clearer process that we're faced with and that we're really not, it's more than we can handle. Some Kind of Love is a series I started probably around about 2010. And it's one of these series that keeps running along. I don't think it will ever stop. And it's basically a series of photographs that looks at trees that have entered into relationships with one another. And some of these relationships are sustainable and healthy relationships, and some of them are destructive. Increasingly, we're discovering that trees are actually sentient beings and that there is a kind of intentionality behind these relationships. So these whole new worlds are opening up to us of ways in which nature establishes relationships of things that we actually did not think of as having a sort of form of intelligence. This kind of subject of the intelligence of the plants is quite a strong subject in this exhibition. So for example, this work that we're sitting between here, these two speakers, they are based on a study that has come out of Israel recently, that plants that are under distress emit sounds to communicate with each other. And they specifically recorded a tomato plant, and they were recording them with ultrasound. So we can't hear them, but moths, for example, can understand what's happening. So there is, for me, for example, a question whether the bark beetle could be combated with certain sounds, right? So are these trees that are under duress because of dryness, are they emitting signs of weakness that attract the bark beetle more aggressively? So this work is recordings of trees that are suffering from drought in Austria. In this video, you see a young woman singing Jacques Brel's song to the forest. Moi, je t'offrirai des perles de pluie venues de pays où il ne pleut pas. Je creuserai la terre jusqu'après ma mort pour couvrir ton corps d'or et de lumière. Of course, in Ne me quitte pas translates as don't leave me. The girl is now the next generation that is left with the impact of what my parents' generation, our generation, has done to the environment, and they will be the people that will have to live with the consequences.
Ne me quitte pas, ne me quitte pas.
We need these forests. It's not just the farmers that need these forests. Society needs clean air. We need these environments, and we need to understand that we have to support these environments so that people can actually carry on looking after them. At the same time, as the work is a symbol of the failure that we have in terms of our responsibility to the environment, it's also a celebration of the incredible drive that we as humanity have to combat these situations.